Well, hello there, and welcome in to another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. It is Jeff Byers and Chris Buchanani filling in for the beloved Under the Weather Goon. The Booch is not necessarily feeling 100% himself, so we appreciate
sinus weather, man. It is the worst. This is the worst time of year. It is going around.
Yep. My wife's been suffering through very similar ailments throughout the week, so knock on wood, I just needed to get through tonight, and I think I'm going to do that, and then whatever happens over the course of the next week, I mean, we'd love to have a good Thanksgiving, but on the job front, all is well.
It's not going to break your heart
tonight
if you're a little under the weather for the Rutgers game. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I don't know. I'm kind of with you, and just let's just get to the end of this thing and see what the future holds at this point. But yeah, noon kickoff with Rutgers Saturday, and after everything that's transpired over the previous 5 weeks, I just don't know how much genuine interest there is. I mean, listen, I'm going to be watching it probably from the comforts of my living room, but I will be watching it, and that's what you do if you're a fan of a team. But I'm even at the point, to be honest with you, Booch, and obviously this will change during the course of the game itself. On Saturday, I will care, and if this team is losing to Rutgers, I am going to be upset. But what I'm telling myself right now is, at the end of the day, what really is the big difference between 8-4 and 6-6? And listen, long term and even short term, yes. Would you rather be 8-4? Obviously. Would you like to get a nice win to end the season over a formidable Michigan State team? And we'll find out perhaps just how formidable that Michigan State team is this weekend as it tries to bounce back from that loss to Purdue with a road win in Columbus. And I give Purdue more than a fighter's chance, or a Michigan State. I give Purdue no chance of beating Ohio State this week. I do think Michigan State has a shot at doing this, and I liked Mel Tucker's reaction. I like him as a coach, and I liked his reaction to the loss, and very much a coach's reaction. It's like, man, we make a tackle here, we eliminate a mistake there. He said it was just a slow death of I forget the exact term, but 1,000 mistakes, and but all correctable things when you're going back and looking on film. Now, again, I think Ohio State a significant step up in terms of the talent level that Michigan State is going to be facing as opposed to Purdue. But I do think getting that. I think experience just helps. In life in general and in athletics, going through experiences helps. You can draw on that moving forward. And again, I'm expecting Ohio State to win this game. I'm expecting going in that it'll be fairly comfortable. 10 to 17 point margin is my expectation going in Columbus, but I'll be rooting like crazy for Michigan State. And again, I'm not going to be sitting there just absolutely stunned if Michigan State wins, but this just feels like a game that Ohio State will come through again. It will be tested, but not. I'm not expecting to come down to the last couple of minutes and everybody on the edge of their seats. I would love it if that's the case. Even more so if Michigan State pulls it out. Again, that's what I'll be rooting for. And for the Penn State Rutgers game, again, I want Penn State to win. Would love to see Penn State win big. Think Penn State should win fairly comfortably. Hopefully they're going to take out some anger that you would think would be built up at this point, given the results of 4 of the last 5 here. But, and a senior day, and that usually means something, and but we don't even know which seniors for sure are actually seniors.
Right.
I don't know. And again, I certainly thank the seniors, salute them, and all of that, and hope nothing but the very best for those that are leaving moving forward. I don't know. It's just it's one of those things when you are psyched up for an event and then the rug feels like it's pulled out from under you. It is hard to get back up. And again, the team needs to do that. I mean, there is a lot to be said for how the team responds or doesn't respond in these last couple of games to the adversity and the outcomes that it has seen over the last several weeks. But again, from a fan perspective, I just don't know. At least in the moment, I just don't know that 6-6 or 8-4 are going to feel all that different at the end of the day. And again, maybe they go out and they look good against Rutgers and they look great against Michigan State. And by God, I tell you then that no, 8-4 feels a lot different, and you're building momentum, and you go out and wax somebody in a bowl game, and you get, again, that momentum swinging back in your favor. And that's certainly, again, if you're a fan or a player or coach, that is what you're hoping for here with the 3 remaining games in the 2021 campaign.
Yeah, the 4th loss is brutal because once you get to 4 losses, your ceiling is 8-4, which is kind of deflating.
Yeah.
And it's all downhill from there, obviously. And I also think it hurts you because it limits the scope of potential bowl opponents.
Big time in this case.
Look, I would love to finish the year 9-4, but as I think we talked about on Tuesday, even if you do, you're not going to get the opportunity to beat a team for your 9th win that's really going to make you feel great about the ending of the season or making any kind of a statement going forward. It's always fun to see Penn State play one more game, and sometimes those bowl games end up being very entertaining and memorable for whatever reason. It is going to be the last game for a few seniors. I think the Michigan State game may end up being the last game for like maybe Jahan Dotson and Jaquan Brisker. It's hard to fault those guys if they sit out the whatever mayonnaise bowl or whatever thing we end up in. So yeah, it's not a great spot to be in, but it is what it is, right? You'd rather win the last 3 than lose any of them.
And I will say, just again, fan perspective and a little bit bitter, not at the team, just at the way the season has gone now. For me, I'm talking about, I'm not bitter at the team. I'm just bitter at the results and where everything sits now. I will say I am happy for the noon kickoff because I want to get this thing out of the way and then zero in on some of the other action the rest of the afternoon and the evening and be able to kind of take that in without having to worry about what Penn State is or isn't doing in those late afternoon and night kickoffs. And again, that's just me and what I'm looking forward to. And I'm hoping I enjoy this football weekend a little more than I did last weekend. The Steelers have a big one coming up here on Sunday night against the San Diego Chargers. As we've talked about, Mike Tomlin's record in the primetime games is very good. And this is a Chargers team that, again, when you face teams during the season matters. And you definitely, if you're a Steelers fan, want to be facing the Chargers now versus, say, late September, early October, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's the wheels haven't come off here for the Chargers, but they're the Pistons aren't all firing the way they were several weeks ago for whatever reason. And I like the way the Steelers defense is playing. And of course it's going to come down to, if Big Ben's in there, how effective is he? How much rest is there that needs to be kicked off? Because as good as that defense is, and as much as the Chargers have had some problems here offensively, the Steelers are going to have to put up some points to beat the Chargers, and I'm just not sure you're going to do that with an ineffective Ben Roethlisberger or a Mason Rudolph here on Sunday night.
Yeah, I know it doesn't mean, a whole lot, but or nothing, frankly, all due respect, Ironhead, but what's your gut instinct?
I think Big Ben does play. I think what is it? He needs two
negative
tests in a 24-hour period, and and be symptom free. Which, I mean, how are you gonna? What player is going to say after getting 2 negative tests? Yeah, but I still have. I better set this one out. I feel like a little bit of a fever still. So yeah, it's getting the 2 negative tests, and I mean, I have no idea, obviously, but it seems like that should happen here, is what it feels like to me, going into Sunday night. And my guess is he'll play decently. I don't think he's going to be as sharp as he hasn't been as sharp as the Big Ben of days of old anyway, but I think he'll be good enough with that receiving core, and with the running game starting to come along. The concern is with the injury now and the offensive line. I do worry a little bit about how stable that ground game will remain here over the next couple of weeks, and that's obviously been a big component here of the Steelers being able to turn the corner prior to the setback with the tie to the Lions here this past Sunday. So, this AFC North race is anxiety ridden for me as a Steelers fan, but man, it is compelling stuff, because I really do think any of those 4 teams, as we sit here right now, I think any of those 4 are capable of winning the division. I mean,
and the funny thing is, none of them has looked in the second quarter of the season the way they did through the first 4 games. So I don't even feel like I've got a great handle on how I think the second half of the season is going to play out.
Yeah, and really, the Steelers, when Ben's been in there, right, the Steelers have been playing the best or the most consistent over the course of the last month. But, the Ravens and the Bengals are still really dangerous teams when they're healthy. And the Browns it's still a talented roster. I just, I don't know. We'll see. And again, it's a week-to-week thing now where your perspectives can change quickly. But, certainly all 4 of those teams are very much in the hunt right now. And, it's just going to depend on which of those teams can get the job done again most consistently,
and they're going to have
down
to
the stretch here.
Beat each other. I mean, that's the thing. That backloaded schedule, they're going to have to. It's just going to come down to head-to-heads, which I think is great.
Yeah, no, I think not
for your nerves, but for disinterested.
But I think all of the teams would prefer that, right? I mean, that's like, as a player, that's right. Like they all control their own destiny right now, right? Because of the conference setup.
Very good point.
And so, yeah, we'll see what happens. It is, again, it's going to be fun in the sports term of fun. As a fan who is passionate about it, again, it is going to be excruciating watching these games over the coming couple of months. But
so that does make me think of something I wanted to ask you about, though. So I saw it was reported earlier in the week. So Odell Beckham signs with the Rams. And as an aside, I think what the Rams are doing is just like an interesting case study of the exact opposite NFL theory of roster building around a veteran quarterback trying to maximize a competitive window to what Pittsburgh does. Because they've obviously gone out and, signed every free agent they could and tried to stock up on a lot of high contract salary cap killing guys, but you put a lot of talent on the roster and you try to go for it in a 2 to 3 year period. And I have always admired the way Pittsburgh's front office has avoided the temptation to do that, even as they've stuck with Roethlisberger as he's gotten older. And I think what a lot of Pittsburgh fans, I'm not sure they even fully appreciate, is how consistent you have to be with your draft in order to do that. Now, I know they haven't had the best by previous decade standards drafts, but you look at all these guys who are making plays for them right now, like the bulk, I think, are guys that they selected, right?
No, there's no question. Yeah, no, they have. They've been, they're like all teams, I mean, there are misses. Even the Patriots, dear fans, miss on the occasional prospect and draft a guy too high. But yeah, I think overall the Steelers have done a really good job of finding the right player in the right need over the last several seasons. And
like you got Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, rounds 1 and 2, and look at the impact those guys have had on the offense.
Yeah, and Freiermuth's fumble notwithstanding on Sunday. I mean, that guy, it sure feels like that is a guy that is going to be making plays for a long time and have a very positive impact. And Harris, again, and really, I guess you'd say the same thing with Freiermuth, but Harris is one of those guys that not only is going to get the job done on the field, and I think we're seeing that now, but he is just such a good locker room guy and such an easy player for fans to identify with, and for other players to emulate and try to rally around. And I think that's those are important components too when you have a more veteran locker room. And the Steelers, I know are I don't know that I'd call it necessarily a veteran locker room. I think there's an interesting mix right now because you have the Cam Haywards and the Ben Roethlisbergers that have seemingly been there forever, and then you have the new blood, and you have a lot of guys that have been there, in that 3 to 6 year period here as well. And I don't know. I'm really much and I'm trying to, this is one of the problems of being a fan. I don't want to be as invested as I am in the Steelers and trying to make a Super Bowl run here under Big Ben, because I can sit back. I mean, I do have enough objectiveness that, and I think it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. A lot of things are going to have to come together for Pittsburgh to make a Super Bowl run. Now, making the playoffs, I think, is a little more realistic possibility. But as we have said many times, once you're in the playoffs, and we've seen it, it's about who's healthy and who's hot. And the Steelers, again, have enough of that veteran presence and guys that have been there before, and will have that confidence that they can exude on the rest of the locker room. And, again, the nice part about it is you have enough of the new infectious, Pat Freiermuth is going to be just lights out excited to be in the playoffs and is going to be going bonkers over the new experience. Najee Harris, the same thing. So, in a lot of ways, again, I don't think it's crazy to think the Steelers could get there. And again, I don't want to be that invested, but that's just what you do as a fan. And I am, and I will be. And with each win, if they win this game Sunday night, and I think they will, because I'm an optimistic fan. But again, there's a chance they'll be in first place by themselves in the AFC North, depending on what the Ravens do.
Yeah, I'm not trying to throw any more fuel on the fire here for you, Ironhead. But if I were going to pick one of the two conferences to have my team trying to get out of, I would probably pick the AFC this year. To me, it just... Yeah,
I think right now that's... KC which is not what you would have thought at the start of the season. Yeah, although...
Buffalo loses 9-6 to Jacksonville. There are... every team has shown some weaknesses.
No question.
But to your point, I would not have expected it.
No, and listen, both... And that's the other thing is, again, a week ago, right, I would have been telling you, Kansas City's just not the same team. Well, now it's like, wait a second. Maybe they're going to be that same team. They certainly looked much more like it against the Raiders. And again, we'll see. It all is going to depend what happens down the stretch. But do I think at the end of the day that, Kansas City and Buffalo could once again be there and be the team? Sure. But it doesn't look anywhere near the guarantee that many, including myself, thought it was at the start of the season. And again, I think there's you just have to see how everything plays out. And again, injuries are going to play a role. The Patriots are, I'm telling you, that is a team that has figured some things out. We've talked about Mac Jones and what he brings to the table, and I think with each start, he just gets a little more comfortable, a little better understanding about what it is he's seen. Nobody has ever doubted his intellectual capacity out there. It's a matter of whether you believed he was going to be able to make all the throws that you need to make at this level, and but. Boy, it sure feels like he is starting to really round into form, and that team is kind of buying into everything Belichick is laying out for them. And again, that feels like that could be a really dangerous team in the playoffs as well. And yeah, I do think the AFC, again, at least as we sit here right now, it feels like that's more wide open. But the Packers, like you go to the NFC, the Packers are always it feels like a moment away from absolute chaos in that locker room. And who knows what all is or isn't happening behind the scenes. The Cowboys certainly looked very vulnerable a couple of weeks ago. And I think, you still wonder, all right, is that a team that's actually going to be able to withstand the pressures of playoff football with that roster? And, Rams, 49ers, Saints, I don't know.
I think the thing with the NFC,
I don't know what to make of those teams.
If I listed up all the, let's just say presumptive playoff teams out of the AFC and the NFC, and I said, okay, you're just a generic NFL team fan. Don't think about a specific team's roster or matchups or anything. Just in general, which rank these teams by where you would least like to go play a playoff game in January?
Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of NFC teams up near the top. If the Steelers are going on the road, honestly, practically to anywhere other than KC or maybe Buffalo, although you beat them already.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how much week one factors in. But other than those two places, I would give them as good a shot as any team to be able to pull out. All those other teams like Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincy, the other divisional rivals, they don't scare me too much. As we just talked about, the Chargers look like they're coming back down to earth a little bit. There are a lot of teams in the AFC I'm not ready to buy into. And to your point, the Steelers have a good combination of young talent and experience in their locker room.
Yeah.
We know they're well coached, which kind of brings me around to what I wanted to ask you about. Just talking about Odell. Reportedly, the Steelers got in late on trying to sign Odell Beckham, but by that point, he had already gone pretty far down the lane with LA and just ended up going that direction. Your thoughts on, as a fan, would you have wanted him to come in and be part of this team?
Yeah, listen. This is, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm happy. It feels like that is a good locker room right now. And again, I'm not around it. This is all, I read a bunch of Steelers stuff from the insiders and all of that, and it just it sure sounds and feels like that is a locker room. And even when they were 1-3, it didn't feel like it was because of locker room issues where there were personalities.
Honestly, if you've been watching football a long time, I think it shows on the field. It's not 100%, but I feel like a longtime fan, you get a sense just by watching the way a team carries itself, body language, sidelines, all of that stuff. Yeah,
and again, I think we know here obviously what Pat Freiermuth brings, and based on everything you've heard with Najee Harris, that these are guys that are not going to be shaking up locker rooms.
Yeah, right.
They're going to do everything they can to ingratiate themselves with teammates. And listen, they're both terrific players, which also goes a long way toward helping ingratiate yourself with the veteran players in the locker room. But again, Cam Hayward is not going to put up with nonsense, and I think they have done a good job with the culture there, and I would worry about an Odell Beckham coming in and disrupting things, being the way Antonio Brown was at the end of his stay in Pittsburgh. And listen, is it possible he comes in? I mean, there's no question he has talent. Now, exactly where he is right now in terms of the overall pantheon of receivers in the NFL, I'm not sure. I mean, he's still a good receiver. I don't know that he's one of the top 5 or even top 10 anymore. And I don't know that he's not. I'm not sitting here making pronouncements. I'm just saying I think it's a little uncertain. And the thing is, the Steelers are getting, even without Juju, and obviously that was a big loss for that receiving core, but they're getting good production from the receiving core. And I think I would worry, and I would think that the Steelers as an organization would worry. And again, I think it comes down to you evaluate the talent, you talk to your quarterback, hey, is this a guy you would want? And if it is, and you think you can work with him, I think you always think that all of these coaches, I think, believe that, even those quote unquote bad apples out there, right, by gosh, you get them in our culture. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? I mean, we've seen, Randy Moss with New England, that worked pretty well. That worked out real nicely. But we've seen also players go into locker rooms and it has not panned out despite the talent. So, and listen, it's very early, but right now I don't think there's a lot of Rams fans saying, woohoo, Odell Beckham's getting us over the top. Now, again, we'll see. We're one game in. I'm not anybody that's making any pronouncements one way or the other. They made that first catch and everybody's jumping up and down, and listen, that's that was good for him and the organization. But it's going to be, over the course of 5 or 6 games, and really not until the playoffs where you ultimately decide, yep, good move. Glad we signed him. Or, oh, man, looking back, that probably did not
well, he did not exactly
really
have a
transformational
impact even in Cleveland when he got there.
No, and that's what I'm saying is I don't know where he really is now. I mean, he's definitely a half step slower, but that was never really his game, was that he was the fastest guy in the world out there. He had good speed. I'm not saying he wasn't fast, but I mean that wasn't where it was, that he just had phenomenal hands and was a terrific route runner and all of that. And again, I think he's still good in all of those areas. And maybe if he's given the opportunity, he's still a top 5 guy. I don't know. It feels more like he's, again, still a very good receiver. It feels to me like he's more in that, 10 to 20 range of overall receivers with some of the stars that are rising, which, by the way, another important component here for the Steelers, I think, on Sunday. Everybody's talking about Big Ben, but not having Claypool for the better part of that game, and whether or not he gets back in here on Sunday night, to me, is a big part of the equation in terms of how I'm feeling about the chances for a win over the Chargers, because I do think Claypool is a special talent, and I think we've seen that. So, again, we'll see. I'm optimistic as I always am, or almost always am, as a Steelers fan, but I'm just excited to see both this game Sunday night and then just to see how everything plays out the rest of the season. Take a break here. We'll talk some Penn State wrestling and basketball. Basketball team in action at home tonight. Wrestling team in its home opener tonight as well. And we'll talk some hoops and wrestling as we continue with the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show from Quaker Steak and Lube here after this.
Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorrentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we say,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,
And we welcome you back in here to Quaker Steak and Lube, a terrific place, by the way, to watch all of that football action this weekend. And also the college hoops, the NHL, those of you that are into the NBA, all of that sports action. Again, great place down here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Just neat atmosphere. Always, you start looking around these walls, there's always something new that catches my attention, and just kind of fun to sit around and do that.
I'm looking at the Thursday night football
events.
pregame show on TV here. I cannot believe how old Warwick Dunn looks.
Yeah.
I can remember when he was a young cat running back at Florida State, and now he looks like he's 50 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
that's depressing.
It is.
Hey, real quick, before we go to the wrestling, let me give you a subplot for this weekend in college football.
Yeah.
So Rutgers and Maryland both have 5 wins right now, and Rutgers is playing Penn State, and Maryland is playing Michigan.
Yeah.
Now, I think we can agree that Michigan's probably going to beat Maryland.
I feel pretty safe in saying
and you and I desperately hope that State is going to beat Rutgers, right?
For the love of God, yes.
So if that pans out, they play each other the last game of the season. So one of those two teams is going to be bowl eligible. And if Greg Schiano can get that win, which I think he can, that is their first 6-win season since 2014.
Yeah.
In his second season at the helm, and really his first real season with the COVID stuff last year. I mean, that does have some relevance for Penn State, because the one thing we don't want is to have Schiano and Rutgers nipping at our heels in that Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania recruiting footprint. And if he can get Rutgers bowl eligible this year, I mean, potentially they could finish as a 7-win team, as could Penn State.
And listen, I don't want to go too far down this road, because but if James Franklin, for whatever reason, leaves Penn State, you could do a whole lot worse, right, than Greg Schiano with the. I mean,
I am sure he would desperately want the job. There's no doubt about it.
And listen, I mean, there's going to be plenty of applicants, and I haven't sat down and thought real hard about all of this, but I'm just telling you, and again, I am strongly advocating for James Franklin to remain. I hope that works out, and I hope that I hope it happens, and that then there is no serious speculation for like at least 4 or 5 years.
That'd be wonderful
on his future, but. If he does leave, I'm telling you, I would be excited if Greg Schiano was the coach that was selected to replace James Franklin. I would be more than okay with that, and I would be confident, for whatever it's worth, which is zilch, but I'd be confident that Greg Schiano would be able to keep Penn State relevant in the Big Ten and in the national discussion on a consistent basis. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of coaches that I'd feel that about. And again, that's not to say that there's not a better hire and there's not somebody else that would have Penn State winning national titles on a regular basis. But it's, as we've talked about many times, it's just you don't know, and those fits that you think are going to be great fits aren't always the case.
Sure, which is why I would prefer to stay off the carousel if at all possible.
I'm with you 100% on that.
Do you realize there's maybe going to be 8 job openings in the Pac-12 this offseason?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is crazy, and it is why. And again, I keep saying I don't want to go down this street, but it is why I think if you're James Franklin, that the USC job, right? I mean,
right.
There is a lot of appeal for a lot of different reasons, but I mean, really, like, I don't think it would take long, and I mean, like, almost instantaneous for him to have USC back in contention, at least strong contention for Pac-12 titles, and again, in the conversation anyway, because it's not. It's just a much easier road. And again, that's now there's also the downside. It's still the Pac-12. You're not getting the same cachet that you do in the Big Ten or the SEC in terms of, it's conceivable. I don't think likely, and I don't think realistically it would happen, but it is conceivable that an undefeated USC team would get left out of depending on the schedule strength and all of that. I mean, but an undefeated Penn State team is not getting left out of the college football playoff.
Yeah, right.
Undefeated USC, again, it's not a guarantee, at least as things currently stand. But anyways, we'll deal with those possibilities.
Just be Rutgers this week.
Another show. That would be nice.
Want to know this week, okay?
Penn State basketball, again, we talked about it a little bit. Disappointing, obviously, second half against UMass. You just got to see how this thing builds up under Shrewsbury. But I think, this is a game tonight. Obviously, you're back at home. You got to get the W, but you want to more so. I mean, not more so. You need the W. Get the W and take care of business at home. But then secondarily, like, you want to get that good feeling. You want to get back in a rhythm here offensively, and you just want to feel like you are, again, building for bigger and better things to come. And I think part of that is, yes, taking the what should be sure wins when you have those opportunities. But again, more so, I think, all right, let's get into the flow of the style of basketball that Micah Shrewsbury is trying to establish here at Penn State. And I think it's, all of these games are opportunities before you get to the conference play, are just opportunities for these guys to continue to the players I'm talking about, and I guess the coaches too, but to learn to play with one another and kind of figure out, all right, this is what's working for us. This is maybe some things we need to change. Because, again, regardless of the talent, it takes a little while to, again, have everybody kind of figure out exactly what their role is and what everybody else can do. And, obviously there's new systems in play here. And you're again, it's very much a work in progress. And I think as a fan, you're just looking for that improvement game to game and looking for lessons learned from games like you had against UMass the other night.
Sure, and I mean, Micah's never been a head coach before, so there's a learning curve to that
for sure.
as well. So it's a lot of moving parts early on in the season. And as you and I talked about on Tuesday when I was in for Goon, like this year, you have to really temper your expectations of what you're going to see in the win-loss column. And it is really more about watching how's he building the program, how's he doing on the recruiting trail, and that looks very good.
Yeah.
And again, like just a measure I always like to look at is how hard is the team playing for him down the stretch, especially if they're not even on the fringe of like NIT contention, which could be the case for this team. I'm not saying it will be, but it might.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Right now, in the moment, it doesn't feel like that type of a team after the second half against UMass. But again, I want to see how things develop here over the course of the next month, and then you can kind of start to.
And look,
to get
sometimes
a real
basketball
idea.
games just go south on you. Man, like
Well,
Trent
we've seen that
Buttrick is never going to shoot like that again in his live long life.
And I mean, you do see, just crazy in retrospect, inexplicable results in November and December in basketball, just as you do on the college gridiron as well. But again, to me, it's just about the development right now on the basketball front and just kind of seeing. You're hoping that improvement kind of game to game now. For the wrestling team, I think back at Rec Hall tonight and an opportunity to finally get back in front of the fans at Rec Hall. I do think I'm expecting this is going to be a raucous crowd tonight. And not because – and listen, Army West Point, by the way, is a good team. This is I think, a real solid dual meet team. Now, unfortunately for Army, where they are – their strongest weights are weights where Penn State largely has hammers. I mean, like they have a ranked 41-pounder, ranked 74-pounder, ranked 84-pounder, which is all great, but you're facing national champions. The starting lineup here for Penn State. Now, Penn State may be a little banged up. We'll see here tonight. May have a weight or two where you have some reserves filling in after the opening nights. But I thought, I think we touched on this on Tuesday, but I thought the fight and the aggressiveness were really good on Saturday night. Conditioning is never a factor for the academies, and so Army West Point is going to be a well-conditioned wrestling team. But Penn State piled up. I think I went back and counted up. Penn State had, and listen, a lot of the bouts didn't get to the third period, but Penn State had a 15-4 advantage in third period takedowns over those first two dual meets. And all four third period takedowns were given up by Joey Bloomer. So, again, Bloomer was filling in up a couple of weight classes, but up a weight. And, he's, probably right now 3 or 4 on the depth chart at 49. Probably third at 41. So, in terms of the starters, again, the projected long-term starters, they did not give up a takedown and again racked up 15 in the dual meets on Saturday night, which again is just a good sign at this stage of the game. But I think the bout tonight at 149 is the one. If you're going as a fan and you just want to see. I think an intriguing bout, but it more intriguing to me because of the caliber of young men involved. PJ Ogasanya is ranked, I think, 20th in the Intermat rankings, 19th or 20th for Army West Point, and is a senior and is just has been a leader in that program for the last couple of years. Was an NCAA qualifier last season and has talked about really wanting to finish up his senior season in strong fashion. And he's just a really sharp guy. Not surprisingly, I guess not many at Army West Point that you'd say
right.
are not sharp. But, man, he just comes across as one of those guys that would just be fascinating to sit down and talk to for any length of time. And Bo Bartlett is the same thing for Penn State. And, Bo obviously, it's interesting because I've had some fans, he was a disappointment last season and he was 8-3. There just wasn't enough of body of work for him to get to the NCAA tournament, but 2 of his 3 losses were by 2 points to guys that finished second and third, respectively, at the NCAA tournament. He lost to Sammy Sasso, who was the number 1 seed and ended up the NCAA runner-up, and to Yaya Thomas, and I think both by 5-3 scores. And then he lost, a decision to an NCAA qualifier for Minnesota. And those were his 3 losses. So, I mean, it wasn't like, he just went out and had a horrible results. There wasn't enough of a body of work. It was the problem. And the season, as a freshman, the season just worked against you last year.
Yeah.
Because you just didn't have the opportunity to get the signature victories if you were a guy like Bo Bartlett through zero fault of yours or even the wrestling teams. So. But that bout to me should be a lot of fun, and I just think again both those young men are guys that are living lives with purpose and very intentional in their actions on and off the mat, and I think that's going to be a fun one because I think both those guys again are looking at this as a real good measuring stick bout at this stage of the season. And so we'll see. I again, it's early. A lot of things, I know coaches were hoping that for some better results off the bottom. Even a couple of the veteran guys got ridden a little more than I think they were hoping for on Saturday night. But again, at this stage of the season, it was mostly, the guys that haven't been in that starting lineup that were having those issues. And again, I think that's kind of what you're wanting to see with these early season results is, okay, these are areas that we need to go back and work on. But I think overall, again, the attitude, the aggressiveness, and the hustle were all there. And I think that's at this stage of the season, that's the most important thing you're looking for, the technique and all of that. Kale and the staff have a pretty good track record of figuring that stuff out over the course of the season. But the competitiveness, the fighting nature, and the conditioning that has to be there before you can build on the technique and get that stuff to where you want it to be at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So again, I think early results are very good, and I also think I think the coaching staff couldn't have set this up any better in terms of listen, Sacred Heart had a lot of guys that are wrestling hard, but clearly outmatched. Oregon State has a couple of ranked kids and much more solid program, but again, still building out there. Army West Point, this is a program that 3 straight years now has had 7 NCAA qualifiers, which is the first time in the program's history they've had that. So this is a team, and it's a veteran team that's coming in here. And again, I'm not sitting here telling you that Army West Point's expected to come in here and defeat Penn State, but this is a significant step up in my mind in terms of talent and challenges for Penn State on the dual meet front. And so I think you get, kind of 3 meets, bang, bang, bang here. And then you get a couple of weeks. And listen, Thanksgiving's there. They'll be, the kids will be home, but they'll have an idea of what they need to work on even while home. Most of them will go to their, local high schools and work out there. But they'll have an idea, again, hopefully, and be doing some wrestling practice with a purpose. And then you come back and you have Penn and Lehigh. And again, Lehigh should be another step up in terms of overall competition. And I think, then you get it into a real big test down in Niceville, Florida with the event that the collegiate duels that nobody seems quite clear still yet on exactly how this thing is being formatted or will play out or who's involved in which side of the poll. But clearly Penn State will face some, probably at least a couple of top 10 teams at that event. But I think, again, from a schedule standpoint, this sets up very nicely. And I think tonight in the matchup with Lehigh then give you good tests, good indications, some really good individual bouts to kind of build on and grow on for the future. I think Penn State probably dual meet wise, dual score wise wins this thing pretty comfortably tonight. But I think, probably 4 or 5 weight classes that should be really fun and good competitive bouts here for the fans to lock in on. But I'm jacked up to see the fans in Rec Hall again and be able to have that atmosphere reestablished. And And it's always neat when any of the service academies come in, because there's obviously automatic tremendous respect for the opponent when you come in.
Right.
These are young men that are dedicating their lives to serving our country, and the fans here obviously recognize that and the higher calling that these young men are under. And so these are fun meets. And again, the fact that it's been a couple of years since we've had a filled Rec Hall, I think this makes this more fun.
When was the last time we had fans in Rec Hall for wrestling?
Yeah, it would have been the last stool meet of 2020 was that Buffalo,
right?
That was in here, and I mean,
that's crazy.
Who knew what was coming after that? And the thing is, even just being in Rec Hall, period. The Maryland was the only home duel last season. Everything else was on the road.
Right.
They hosted the Big Tens at the Jordan Center. But I mean,
right. I remember we were talking about how senior night was the home opener.
Yeah. And it was so. I mean, you like Bo Bartlett has only wrestled once, period, in Rec Hall, let alone in his first time in front of the fans.
Wild.
So yeah, I mean, even with or without fans, not many opportunities here over the last couple of years. So
crazy.
It is going to be, I think, just a lot of fun for everybody involved tonight to get back in front of the fans. And listen, I know everybody's dialed in on Penn State, Iowa, and there's and understandably, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I do think Penn State and Iowa are going to be battling it out for Big Ten and NCAA titles this year. But I do think there is more depth, in part because of COVID and obviously the rules that allow that entire veteran Iowa team to bring its lineup back. Minnesota has, obviously with Gable Stevenson leading the way, a good team back. I think Michigan is a team, if you're looking for somebody that can upset the cart here.
Don't want to hear that.
Big Ten.
Ironhead. I do not want to hear that.
It is Michigan. I do think Ohio State is building. I don't know that this year they're going to be very good this year, but I think they're looking at the next couple of years as being an opportunity to get back and possibly win another national title or two for the Scarlet and Gray. But
let me ask you, Ed, do you believe that Cale Sanderson coming to Penn State and having the success he's had here, has that catalyzed these other Big Ten programs to try to step up their own game? Because it seems that way to me.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think yes. I think you've seen a more of an all-in commitment. Certainly Ohio State had made that commitment just prior to Cal coming in. But, with the hiring of Tom Ryan, they kind of went all in on, hey, we want to be big time here with college wrestling. And I think Michigan has gone all in on that as well. But I also think, Illinois is really committed right now to trying to break into that upper tier. I think Wisconsin is committed to that. I think Michigan State is finally back to being committed. It took a while, but I think they are back to really being committed to pursuing big time college wrestling. Purdue is a program that has built itself up. Obviously, Rutgers has just done a tremendous job under Scott Goodale. That program is unprecedented heights for that program right now. And, I do think across the board you've seen, and I also think you've seen a change in, and even within the Iowa program where it was always about winning. I think it is now more about, hey, let's go get as many points as we can, right? The domination. And listen, Dan Gable's teams obviously dominated, but when it got to the tournament, it was much more, I think, about winning, finding a way to win. And yes, if you could dominate, obviously that would be your preference. But I think the focus now is on bonus points across the board, anywhere and everywhere you can pick them up.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think Cale has done in terms of impacting the sport is, I think, beyond the Big Ten. I think an NC State, the ACC as a whole, but like an NC State and a Virginia Tech now, I mean, they are all in. Arizona State, and I think Oregon State is getting very close to being. I think Chris Pendleton's going to kind of force them to listen. We are going all in on being a big time program. And I think this year, again, there's just with all of the talent coming back on all of these rosters, and then the influx of very good young talent again, and we'll see. Even at Penn State, a Shane Van Ness or a Alex Facundo, we'll see whether or not those guys end up cracking the lineup and being utilized this season, or whether Penn State opts to redshirt them. But I mean, those are guys that certainly could have an impact this season as true freshmen. And again, when you factor in all of the veterans, all of the new guys, and everybody in between, I mean, you're basically, it's basically 7 years worth of, a solid 6, and in some cases, 7 years worth of classes that are competing here at the collegiate level. And listen, you have guys that have tremendous international experience now. I just think it is, for the sport, I think this is going to be as entertaining of a year as we've had, and I think as talented in some of these weight classes as maybe we've ever seen in terms of top-end depth. So we'll see. 7 o'clock tonight, Penn State wrestling against Army West Point at Rec Hall. That's going to wrap things up for today. We'll be back. Hopefully the Dear Goon will join us again on Tuesday. We'll talk about that Penn State Rutgers game, hopefully have some more wins for Penn State basketball, hockey, and wrestling to talk about. And until then, enjoy the games. And again, we will talk to you again on Tuesday here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Until then, be